Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. Scene 1. The setup word count target. 475, 450 to 500. Final word count. 478. The second I lifted my bag into the overhead bin, I felt that old pinch at the base of my spine, a reminder. 15 years on fire lines, 3 surgeries, and still my body screamed when I moved wrong. But I got the damn bag up. I always did. I turned to sit in 3A- window seat, first class. Not for champagne or legroom, but because coach turned my back into a war zone. I booked it myself. No upgrades, no favors. I earned it. Then I heard a voice I hadn't heard in almost 7 years. Well, look who it is. I didn't need to turn. I knew. Kara, my ex-sister-in-law. All pearls and perfect posture. She worked the gate now, apparently. Her badge said supervisor. Her smile said something else. Melanie Cross, she said like she was greeting a mail-in rebate. Hey there, I nodded once. Hey, she stepped closer, still smiling way too much. We had a bit of a reshuffle. Corporate tier priorities. Someone with elite status needed your seat. I had to move you. I stared at her. I paid for that seat. She tilted her head like a kindergarten teacher. Totally understand. But sometimes these things are above us. You've been reassigned to 26B, I didn't move. She leaned in slightly, just enough to lower her voice and pretend it was friendly. Someone like you can handle a little discomfort, right? My jaw locked up. I wanted to ask what the hell that meant. Someone like me, but I already knew. I nodded instead. Understood. I reached up, pulled my bag back down, and walked. Past the curtains, past the polite stares, past the fake warmth. My spine throbbed harder with every step. 23 rows later, I dropped into 26B middle seat. Quick note, before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. The guy by the window was already unwrapping a sandwich the size of my forearm. The kid on the aisle was blasting music from his phone like it was a public service. I didn't say a word. I just sat back, winced as my lower back screamed, and breathed through my nose. This wasn't about a damn seat. This was Kara, still bitter, still wearing that mask of polite sabotage. But I'd been through worse than this. So I sat there in 26B, staring straight ahead, pretending it didn't hurt. Pretending I hadn't just been humiliated in front of a full cabin by a woman who used to call me family. Then I felt it, the metal edge of something small in my coat pocket. My fingers closed around it like a reflex. I didn't even look down. I just held it. Because I already knew what it was, and I knew why I brought it. Final rule check. Aggressive, direct tone. Done. Step-by-step progression. Done. Every scene leads to conflict resolution. Done. Scene ends with action. Done. Minimal internal monologue. Done. No repeated, invisible, used phrases. After first scene, done dialogue limit respected. Max 3 consecutive lines per character. Done no LGBT themes. Done no emojis. Done scene 2. The tension final word. Count 700, 600, 65 to 735. I shifted in the seat and my spine lit up like a flare. That deep, stabbing heat that comes before the real pain. The kid on my left had headphones in, but the music still leaked out. Some auto-tuned garbage vibrating through the plastic seatbacks. The guy on my right had half a sandwich already in his lap, and crumbs stuck to his shirt like medals. I clenched my jaw and eased back. Breathe in. Breathe out. Grit through it. My fingers were still wrapped around the plaque in my pocket. Thin brass, smooth edges, just enough weight to feel real. It wasn't for pride. It was for control. Anchor myself, keep the wave of heat from dragging me under. The girl in 25A, curly hair, maybe 20, nose ring, glanced back and caught a glimpse of the plaque as I turned it in my hand. Her eyebrows dipped like she was trying to place it. Then she slid her phone up slowly, camera angled just right. She didn't say a word, just started recording. I didn't move. I didn't blame her either. Seat 3A was directly in front of me. I stared at the headrest, rigid and plush. Kara's smile echoed in my head. Someone like you can handle it. Yeah. Handle what? Being treated like a backup generator? The plane was still sitting at the gate. No movement, no ding, no announcements. That silence that makes you look around and realize everyone else is doing the same thing. Then the energy shifted. A ripple, like when a wind hits dry grass before the flame does. Subtle, but real. I saw someone board from the front. A tall man, late 50s or 60s, pressed shirt, clean lines, the kind of posture that comes from command, not vanity. He wasn't rushing. He moved with purpose. Head up, eyes scanning like he already knew what he was looking for. He passed first class, kept walking, row 15, 20, 25. He stopped in front of my row. "Excuse me?" he said to the sandwich guy, then leaned in toward me. His voice was low but carried weight. "You're Melanie Cross, right?" My throat tightened. I nodded. He extended a hand. "Chief Alan Devereaux, former state fire marshal." I shook it once, firm grip, clean shake. He didn't smile. "I saw the footage," he said. "Recognized you from the citation file. Sugar Pine Ridge, correct?" I didn't speak, just gave a small nod. "You carried out 2 rookies in active flame, one with a shattered leg, other with full-thickness burns. That ring a bell?" I nodded again, slower this time. He exhaled through his nose, almost like relief. Then he stood upright, turned his body toward the front of the cabin, and he raised his voice. "Excuse me," he said loud enough for every row to hear. "This woman was awarded the Medal of Valor by the state." The cabin stilled again. "She doesn't ask for acknowledgement, but she damn sure doesn't deserve to be humiliated." My chest tightened. I felt every eye in the back half of that plane shift toward me. He turned to the nearest flight attendant. Young guy with a clipboard, eyes wide. "Reassign me. I'll take her seat." No hesitation. The kid nodded. Just like that. I didn't move. Chief Devereaux gave me a nod, calm and steady. "Let's go," he said. I rose without a word. The pain flared again, but I moved through it. We walked up the aisle together. People watched, some stunned, some pretending not to. But they all saw it. No Kara, no apology, just him and me. He stopped at seat 3A, stepped aside. I sat. He didn't say anything else. Just turned and walked the 23 rows back to 26B. Quiet, deliberate, like a man repaying a debt. Final rule check. Aggressive, direct tone, done. Step-by-step progression, done. Every scene leads to conflict resolution, done. Scene ends with action, done. Minimal internal monologue, done. No repeated, invisible used phrases after first scene, done. Dialogue limit respected, max 3 consecutive lines per character, done. No LGBT themes, done. No emojis, done. Scene 3. The reveal final word count, 764, 713 to 788. I sank into the seat like it owed me something. The leather was cool and stiff under me, untouched. My back barely had time to react before it started easing. Not painless, but better. Chief Devereaux stood just to the side, still facing forward. He leaned in a little, voice lower again. "I saw the security footage before I boarded," he said. "Knew it was you the second I saw the way you moved. Favoring the left, bracing with your hip." I blinked. "That's specific." "So was your file. I was state fire marshal for 12 years. Saw hundreds of citations cross my desk. Maybe 4 stuck with me." He looked down the aisle, then back at me. "You pulled 2 rookies from a ravine with a 10-minute burnover clock. One had a compound femur fracture, the other's helmet melted. I read your incident report 5 times." I stared at him. "They lived because of you," he added. I had nothing to say to that. I wasn't used to being seen, not like that. He took a breath, then stepped forward into the center of the aisle. His voice rose, not yelling, not dramatic, just cutting clear through the cabin. "This woman," he said, motioning to me, "was awarded the Medal of Valor by the state of California." A few passengers turned their heads. The ones who hadn't already heard the earlier exchange now sat up straighter. He went on. "She's not the kind of person who demands recognition, but she damn sure doesn't deserve to be humiliated." Silence, total silence, not even a ringtone or cough. He turned to the flight attendant, the same young guy with the clipboard who had nodded earlier. His mouth was slightly open, like he hadn't figured out how to catch up. Chief Devereaux looked him dead in the eye. "Reassign me. I'll take her seat." The attendant nodded again. Quicker this time. Devereaux turned back to me. "Come on." I stood. No hesitation this time. I didn't make eye contact with anyone, just followed him up the aisle as the weight started to shift off my spine, off my chest. As we passed each row, I felt it, eyes following us, some wide, some lowering. A couple passengers looked away, pretending they hadn't been watching like hawks. Row 21, 17, 11. A man with a laptop paused his typing to give me a look I couldn't read. Maybe guilt, maybe disbelief. I caught someone whispering. Not clear enough to catch the words, but I didn't need to. The shift was happening. I could feel it. Devereaux stopped at 3A and motioned toward the seat. It's yours. I stepped in, placed my bag back in the overhead, slower this time. No rush, no panic, just deliberate. Then I sat. The window was to my left. I could finally stretch my legs, breathe without bracing. Devereaux gave me a small nod. Just that. Then he turned. No victory lap, no final statement. He walked the full length of the cabin, past row after row of faces that suddenly didn't know where to look. And then he sat, right there in 26B, between a half-eaten sandwich and a kid playing garbage music. Didn't complain, didn't shift. He just sat there, quiet as ever, like he'd done exactly what he came here to do, and nothing more. Final rule check. Aggressive, direct tone. Done. Step-by-step progression. Done. Every scene leads to conflict by resolution. Done. Scene ends with action. Done. Minimal internal monologue. Done. No repeated, invisible, used phrases after first scene. Done dialogue limit respected, max 3 consecutive lines per character. Done no LGBT themes. Done no emojis. Done scene 4. The ripple's final word. Count 701. 665 to 735. I sat in 3A, upright but not stiff. Let my shoulders drop for the first time since boarding. The air in the cabin felt different, heavier still, like everyone was holding their breath, waiting for someone else to exhale first. Across the aisle, a man in his 60s, Vietnam vet hat, silver hair, caught my eye. He gave me a single, slow nod. Respect, he mouthed. I nodded back. No one else said a word. I reached into my coat pocket and pulled out the velvet pouch. Quietly, didn't want to make a show of it. This wasn't for them. I slipped the plaque out with one hand and turned it over in my palm. It was plain, bronze finish, engraved text, state seal in the corner. Not flashy, not dressed up with color or shine. Just solid, just earned. A kid in the row ahead, maybe 10 or 11, turned around in his seat. His eyes landed on the plaque and didn't move. His mouth opened slightly, like he wanted to say something but didn't have the right words. I gave him a small smile and slid the plaque back into the pouch, tightened the drawstring, placed it in the seat pocket in front of me. The girl who'd been recording earlier, 25A, was already tapping away at her phone. I saw the video thumbnail pop up for a second. Me in the middle seat, Chief Devereaux's voice loud and clear. She hit post. The feed refresh buzzed in her hands. And just like that, it was out. Still no sign of Kara. Gate door was closed, but she hadn't returned to the cabin. No announcements, no walkthrough, nothing. Then someone in row 8 leaned sideways and said it, loud enough for the whole section to hear. So, she got bumped for a loyalty customer? The question hung in the air like a spark above dry grass. From further back, a woman's voice, flat, irritated, cut in. Guess heroism isn't part of the point system. That landed. You could feel it. People shifting in their seats, looking toward the front, looking toward me, whispering low and sharp. Someone opened their flight app and started tapping like they were fact-checking what just happened. Another person pulled up the airline's social media page. The pressure was moving, and it wasn't on me anymore. The woman 2 rows back leaned into the aisle and said, "She paid for that seat?" "Yup," someone near her said. "First class, out of pocket." A beat of silence, then another voice. "They bumped a decorated firefighter. For a mileage upgrade?" No one had an answer, not one that sounded decent out loud. The recording was already racking up views. The girl in 25A's phone buzzed again and again. Notifications, comments, reposts. Her screen lit up with the words, 5,000 views in 3 minutes. One guy muttered, "Gonna be a long week for the PR department." Someone near the front said, "Who's the supervisor on this flight anyway?" That question didn't get an answer either, because everyone already knew, and no one wanted to say her name. I stayed quiet, didn't move, didn't feed it, but I could feel the temperature shift, that quiet shame creeping through the rows, the discomfort that follows when people realize they just watched something ugly happen and did nothing. Final rule check. Aggressive, direct tone. Done. Step-by-step progression. Done. Every scene leads to conflict, dark resolution. Done. Scene ends with action. Done. Minimal internal monologue. Done. No repeated, invisible used phrases after first scene. Done dialogue, limit respected. Max 3 consecutive lines per character. Done no LGBT themes. Done no emojis. Done scene 5. The origin final word count 672, 618 to 683. The whispers and clicks kept rolling around the cabin, but I leaned my head against the window and let my eyes close for a second. And just like that, I was back there, 7 years ago, folding lawn chairs in my ex's parents' backyard. It was early August. My second back surgery had been 6 weeks before. I wasn't cleared to lift anything over 15 pounds, but nobody seemed to care. Or maybe they didn't believe it because I wasn't in a brace anymore. Kara sure didn't. She'd shown up in a white sundress and wedge heels, holding a tray of organic gluten-free brownies like they were sacred artifacts. Her nails were French-tipped, not a chip in sight. Hair curled just enough to say effortless, but not one strand out of place. I'd just finished loading the grill utensils into the kitchen when I heard my name. "So, Mel," someone said from the patio table, "you still chasing fires up there in those hills?" I was halfway back outside with a stack of cleaned plates. Before I could answer, my ex's dad, Ron, cut in. "Chasing? Hell, she's leading." He slapped the table like it owed him money. Mel carried out 2 guys under live flame last season, one unconscious. Both would have died if she'd waited for backup. He looked around like he expected applause. "We're damn proud of her." I paused at the screen door, not because of the praise, I'd heard Ron talk like that before, but because of what came next. Kara laughed, not loud. Just that little huff through the nose, like something was cute but stupid. "That's great," she said, smiling way too wide. "But maybe try saving a marriage next time." The table went quiet. Then came the fake laughter, polite chuckles from people who didn't want to pick sides. I stood there with a plate in each hand. My face went hot. My spine, already stiff from the fusion, locked up even more. Not from pain this time, just rage. No one said anything. Not Ron, not my ex, not his sisters. I cleared the plates like nothing happened, put them in the dishwasher, wiped the counter, took out the trash. Didn't say a damn word. That was the last time I saw Kara. No calls, no texts, not even when the divorce finalized 6 months later. She'd always treated me like I was a guest playing house, temporary, disposable, and I knew right then, when she made that comment and no one stopped her, that I was done pretending I belonged in that family. So I left, not loud, not messy, just gone. Final rule check. Aggressive, direct tone. Done. Step-by-step progression. Done. Every scene leads to conflict resolution. Done. Scene ends with action. Done. Minimal internal monologue. Done. No repeated, invisible, used phrases after first scene. Done dialogue limit respected. Max 3 consecutive lines per character. Done no LGBT themes. Done no emojis. Done scene 6. The watching eye's final word count. 700, 665 to 735. The hum of the cabin was back, but it wasn't normal. People talked in half-quiet voices, like the walls were thinner now. Like everything that happened still sat in the air, waiting to be acknowledged. I felt someone shift beside me. The woman in 2C leaned over the armrest, cautious but firm. "Thank you," she said. "I had no idea who you were, but I do now." I nodded once. "Appreciate that." She sat back, and for a second, it was quiet again. Then, from somewhere mid-cabin, a single clap. Slow, uncertain. Another followed, not many. Just 2 or 3. It didn't turn into a standing ovation, just a smattering of approval, half-hearted, half-aware. A man in 4D turned around in his seat and frowned. "Bit much, no?" His voice carried just enough for people to hear. "Whole thing's kinda dramatic," he added. That stirred it. "Dramatic," someone near the front said. "She was bumped out of first class after paying for it. That's not drama. That's messed up." The guy shrugged. "She's not the only one with a hard job. Doesn't mean you get special treatment." A woman 2 rows behind him leaned in. "She didn't ask for it. Someone else offered it. Big difference." He turned toward her. "Still, seems like it's all gotten a little overblown." Another voice from the back. "That's because you're not listening." The energy tightened again. Excuse me? 4D snapped. A young woman stood up halfway, resting one hand on the seat in front of her for balance. My mom's a paramedic, she said. 23 years, 3 back surgeries. She still gets passed over for promotion because she doesn't kiss ass or smile enough. People turned toward her. She wasn't yelling, just loud enough to make sure she got it out. People like her, like this woman, she pointed at me without blinking. They get stepped over for people with points and perks and status. She sat back down. Silence again. I didn't respond. I wasn't going to. This wasn't about turning it into a speech or making it worse. I just kept breathing, slow and steady. Let them work it out. A few more glances came my way, some guilty, some apologetic. One guy in first class across the aisle gave me a nod and mouthed something like, unreal, but I didn't ask him to repeat it. The truth was, I didn't want praise. I didn't want sympathy. I just wanted the weight to land where it belonged, for once, not on me. Someone behind me muttered, that video's already over 100,000 views. Another added, Kara's probably hiding in the bathroom. Still, no sign of her. No announcement. No explanation. I just sat in the damn seat I paid for, my spine finally not screaming, my hands steady again. And for the first time in a long while, I could feel it. They saw me, not as a problem, not as someone taking up space, but as someone who'd earned it. Final rule. Check. Aggressive, direct tone. Done. Step-by-step progression. Done. Every scene leads to conflict, resolution. Done scene ends with action. Done minimal internal monologue. Done. No repeated invisible or used phrases after first scene. Done dialogue. Limit respected. Max 3 consecutive lines per character. Done no LGBT themes. Done no emojis. Done scene 7. The chain of action final word. Count 769, 713 to 788. 2 floors below us, tucked behind a wall of monitors and blinking panels, Lionel Ramirez stood with his arms crossed, eyes locked on the security feed from Gate 17. His jaw clenched when he saw Kara lean in toward me with that smug little smile. He didn't know what she said, but he could guess. He watched me walk away, slow and stiff, watched me carry my own bag, no help, down that endless aisle to the back of the plane. He didn't sit down, just turned toward the staff terminal and pulled up the manifest. And there it was. Cross, Melanie. He stared at the name like it wasn't real. Then he clicked the record, confirmed the DOB, saw the flag next to Special Handling Request. Not for luxury, not for upgrades, just for spinal clearance. He muttered under his breath, no damn way. Because in 2008, I carried him. Lionel Ramirez, fire logistics captain, 300 yards up a rock face with a busted ankle and smoke so thick we were coughing blood by the time we reached the crest. He hadn't seen me since. Didn't even know I was still active back then, let alone flying commercial in pain years later. He picked up the red phone near the center console. Direct line to the interterminal ops desk. Get me Chief Devereaux, he said. Now. The guy on the other end hesitated. You mean the retired? Yeah, that one. 2 minutes passed. Maybe 3. Then Ramirez said, Chief? It's Ramirez. Sugar Pine Ridge, 2008. I just saw something you're going to want to act on. Passenger's name is Melanie Cross. She's being bumped by some low-level supervisor who clearly didn't do her damn homework. Devereaux's voice was calm, but firm. Where is she now? Gate 17, Sacramento flight. They're boarding. I'm on it, the chief said. Line went dead. Ramirez didn't sit. He just stared at the frozen image on screen. Me standing in front of seat 3A, bag still over my shoulder. Then he watched Chief Devereaux appear on another monitor, walking with that steady gait, switching terminals like he was late to a meeting he'd already prepared for. No badge, no agenda. Just the memory of someone who never asked for praise, never took the spotlight. Someone who did the work and carried the weight, sometimes literally. Ramirez didn't tell anyone else. He didn't need to. He just waited and watched. Saw Devereaux board late, pass first class, stop at row 26 like he'd known the number in advance. He saw the exchange, short, clean, respectful. Then the chief turned to the cabin. And that speech? That wasn't rehearsed. That was stored. Stored in the muscle memory of a man who'd watched firefighters burn out, break down, and get buried in silence. A man who remembered the ones who carried others out and never said a word after. Lionel exhaled, slow and heavy, then turned away from the screen and pulled up an incident report from a drawer in his desk. Cross, May Sugar Pine Ridge. 2 lives extracted under active flame. He didn't need to read it again. He just placed it on top of the stack, right where someone else would find it. Then he picked up the phone and made another call. Final rule check. Aggressive, direct tone, done, step-by-step progression. Done. Every scene leads to conflict resolution. Done, scene ends with action. Done, minimal internal monologue. Done, no repeated, invisible or used phrases after first scene. Done, dialogue limit respected, max 3 consecutive lines per character. Done, no LGBT themes. Done, no emojis. Done, scene 8. The hearing final word. Count 679, 618 to 683. 2 weeks later, Kara sat stiff-backed at the far end of a long glass conference table, hands folded too neatly, mouth pulled tight like she still thought posture could win this. Across from her sat 4 people: airline HR, legal counsel, and 2 ops leads. Nameplates, notepads, bottles of untouched water. The air in the room was sterile, too quiet, too cold. One of the executives started, "Ms. Bennett, we're here to review your decision on August 8th to reassign passenger Melanie Cross from seat 3A to 26B. Can you walk us through what led to that choice?" Kara nodded once, measured. There was a last-minute change. A Tier 1 loyalty member needed first-class accommodation. Cross didn't have elite status. The HR rep looked up. "Did you check her profile for service notes or accommodation flags?" Kara hesitated. "I didn't recognize the name, and there wasn't a disability flag in the usual field." "You didn't see the spinal clearance request?" "I may have overlooked that," Kara said, just barely keeping her voice even. The legal counsel flipped a page in their folder. "Were you aware she's a decorated civil servant, Medal of Valor, issued by the state?" Kara looked down. "Not at the time." "Right," said the ops lead, dry. "And that's the problem." Silence settled again, the kind that presses down hard and makes you sweat behind your knees. "So you downgraded her," the HR rep continued, "without verifying whether she had a special status or any medical necessity." "She didn't look injured," Kara muttered. One of the executives leaned forward. "She shouldn't have to." That line landed hard. Kara blinked, but she didn't argue. The legal counsel closed their folder. "You understand the situation has caused reputational damage. We've had to respond to inquiries from multiple media outlets, not to mention internal backlash." Kara looked up, barely. "I didn't do it out of spite." Ops lead said, "But you did it out of negligence? You made a call without doing your job fully. That's not just careless, it's costly." They didn't yell. They didn't insult her. They didn't have to. They just let the silence stretch until it said everything. After a long beat, HR spoke again. "We're finalizing disciplinary measures. You'll receive formal documentation this afternoon." Kara nodded once. Nothing left to say. No fight left to give. "Thank you," someone said. Cold, final, polite. She stood slower than she sat. Shoulders pulled in. Mouth still tight, but the edge was gone. No pearls today, no heels. Just flats and a blazer that suddenly looked too big for her. The door clicked behind her as she walked out of the room. Slower than she came in, quieter too, and for the first time in years, the room didn't move when she did. Final rule check. Aggressive, direct tone, done. Step-by-step progression, done. Every scene leads to conflict resolution, done. Scene ends with action, done. Minimal internal monologue, done. No repeated, invisible used phrases after first scene, done. Dialogue limit respected, max 3 consecutive lines per character. Done no LGBT themes, done no emojis, done scene 9. The call final word. Count 603, 570 to 630. 2 days later, my phone buzzed just after 8. Unknown number. I almost let it go. Then I saw the area code. Bay Area. I answered. "Hello?" Silence for a second. Then, her voice. "It's Kara." I didn't say anything. She spoke again. Softer this time. "I shouldn't have done that." "The seat thing." Still, I stayed quiet. Let her work for it. "I wanted you to feel the way I always felt," she said. Every time someone praised you. Every time Dad said your name like it meant something. I sat down at the edge of the couch. Go on. It wasn't about the seat, she said. Not really. It was about me feeling small compared to you. Her voice cracked a little, but she didn't cry. Not Kara. Just sounded like someone who'd finally run out of lines to memorize. You made me feel like I could never be enough, she said. And I guess I wanted to flip that, even for 1 second, even if it was petty. I waited a beat, then said, "And how'd that work out for you?" She laughed once, not bitter, just tired. Didn't land the way I pictured it? No, I said. It didn't. Another pause. Then she added, I was jealous. I hated that you were the one doing something real while I was organizing snack schedules and booster fundraisers. She let out a breath. That day at the BBQ, I said what I said because it was the only time anyone was looking at me instead of you. I didn't respond right away. Then I said, so maybe stop proving you're not enough. Quiet on her end. Finally, she said, thank you for picking up. I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. Thanks for calling. There was nothing else to say. We hung up. It wasn't closure, not really, but it didn't sting like it used to. Not a friendship, but maybe the end of a war. Final rule check. Aggressive, direct tone, done. Step-by-step progression, done. Every scene leads to conflict, resolution, done. Scene ends with action, done. Minimal internal monologue, done. No repeated, invisible used phrases after first scene. Done dialogue limit respected. Max 3 consecutive lines per character. Done no LGBT themes. Done no emojis. Done scene 10. The shift final word. Count 503. 450 to 550. 2 weeks later, the memo dropped across internal airline servers. Title was plain, but the first line hit different. The cross clause. All ticketed seats must be honored for decorated civil servants with verified documentation of service. No exceptions, no reassignments, no override. I didn't ask for it, didn't push for it, but it happened anyway. The press jumped fast. One firefighter's quiet stand changes policy. There were headlines, think pieces, a couple national outlets that tried to reach me for interviews. I ignored them all. I wasn't interested in being a face for anything. I just went back to teaching my evening CPR and trauma response classes at the Community Rec Center in Rancho Cordova. Monday through Thursday, 6 to 8, no cameras, no noise. We ran drills, practiced compressions on dummies, reviewed triage priorities. I kept the pace fast and the room honest. Most nights were quiet, a few regulars, moms, teachers, one former cop. Then one Tuesday, about halfway through a class, a woman in scrubs pulled me aside on break. You're the airplane lady, right? I blinked. Depends who's asking. She smiled. My sister works airline ops. She showed me the video. I nodded once. Didn't say more. Another woman chimed in from across the room. That was you? The firefighter? Word traveled quick. A third woman, younger, said, how'd you stay so calm? I would have lost it. I looked up from resetting a practice AED because I knew I belonged there. They got quiet. I stood up, met their eyes. That's the difference. Dignity doesn't yell. It just doesn't move when someone else says you should. They didn't clap, didn't swarm. They just nodded. And we got back to work. Final rule check. Aggressive, direct tone. Done step-by-step progression. Done. Every scene leads to conflict, resolution. Done. Scene ends with action. Done. Minimal internal monologue. Done. No repeated, invisible used phrases after first scene. Done. Dialogue limit respected. Max 3 consecutive lines per character. Done no LGBT themes. Done no emojis. Done ending block. Would you have picked up Kara's call after what she did? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you like the story, hit that subscribe button.